So, I mean, we've all seen that specific type of tech industry scandal play out in the news, right?
Yeah, constantly.
You know the one. You have this charismatic, turtleneck-wearing CEO who gets up on stage. He's just soaking in the applause for some revolutionary new piece of software.
Hailed as an absolute visionary.
Exactly, a total genius. But then, years later, the truth leaks out. The CEO didn't actually write a single line of code.
Not one.
Right. The entire system was secretly built by, like, an uncredited intern who was locked in a basement, totally overworked, stripped of all their agency, and then they're just unceremoniously fired so the CEO can keep all the equity. It really changes the whole story, doesn't it?
It completely shatters the illusion.
Yeah.
I mean, you stop looking at the CEO as a genius, and you start seeing them as an opportunist.
Yeah.
Someone who just, well, knew how to exploit someone else's brilliance.
Exactly. And that exact mechanism, stolen labor, erased brilliance, and just ruthless ambition is what we are unpacking for you today. So welcome to the deep dive.
Thrilled to be here for this one.
Our mission today is to look at a story that actually predates the Odyssey. We are diving into the very first great European journey by water, the quest of the Golden Fleece.
And, to really understand what's happening beneath the surface of this myth, you need to know that our sources are a composite. We're drawing from three very different ancient writers.
Right. It's not just one continuous book.
No, not at all. We have Apollonius of Rhodes, who essentially wrote the ancient Greek equivalent of, like, a Marvel movie. It's this grand, sweeping adventure on the high seas.
Lots of action.
Exactly. Then we have Pingar, who gives us this incredibly vivid, mythic backstory. And finally, we have Euripides. He's the tragic playwright who takes this glorious epic and he turns the final act into a devastating psychological horror story.
Which is exactly why we're so excited to share this with you, because if you grew up hearing about Jason and the Argonauts, I mean, it was probably billed as the ultimate hero's journey, right?
Oh, absolutely. The classic adventure.
Yeah, a guy assembling a dream team to sail off and win a magical prize. But as we dig into these texts today, you're going to see that this is really a story about the weaponization of the gods. It's about the ultimate toxic relationship.
And a heroine whose dark magic did absolutely all of the heavy lifting.
Literally all of it. But before we get to the magic, we really need to talk about the sea. Because for an ancient Greek, hopping on a boat was not, a luxury cruise.
Far from it. If you're listening to this and wondering why taking a boat ride was considered the ultimate test of courage, you really have to put yourself in the ancient mindset. I mean, there were no paved highways.
Just wilderness.
Right. The sea was an alien, terrifying frontier. Ships didn't even sail by night. They had to pull ashore and make camp every single evening.
Which sounds exhausting.
It was. And to the Greeks, any land outside their own borders was basically a realm of chaos. Every uncharted island could harbor a monster or a hostile army or a sorcerer capable of doing far more damage than a simple shipwreck ever could.
Okay, let's unpack this. Starting with the object they're actually sailing into this nightmare to find. Because the Golden Fleece isn't just some, shiny treasure sitting on a pedestal. It's basically an artifact of pure dysfunction.
Oh, it really is. It's a mess from day one.
Totally. Reading through the backstory Pindar gives us, the fleece originates from a Greek king whose new wife, Ino, actually plots to murder her stepson. And she does it by artificially causing a massive famine.
Right. So Ino parches the kingdom's seed corn so it literally won't grow. And then she bribes an oracle to tell the king that the only way to end the starvation is to sacrifice his own son, Phrixus, right at the altar.
Which is just incredibly dark. And right as the kid is about to be sacrificed, the gods send down this wondrous, flying, golden-fleeced ram to snatch him up.
By Hermes, yeah.
Yeah, and it flies him to safety in this distant land called Colchis. His sister Helle falls off on the way, which is a whole other tragedy. But anyway, how does Phrixus show his gratitude for this divine rescue? He sacrifices the golden ram to Zeus and hands its magical fleece over to the local king, King Hades.
Which is quite the thank you note.
Right. So, right from its inception, this fleece is just soaked in familial betrayal and misplaced gratitude. It sets a very specific, dark, thematic tone for what Jason is eventually asked to do.
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
The fleece is essentially a monument to escaping death. And that brings us to Jason.
Our supposed hero.
Right. Because years later, Jason arrives in a Greek city to reclaim a throne that was stolen by his uncle Peleus. And Peleus, we are told, had received a prophecy.
A very specific prophecy.
Very specific, warning him that he would be killed by a kinsman wearing only one sandal.
Which is naturally exactly how Jason strolls into town.
Of course.
He's got this leopard skin draped over his shoulder, he's got long flowing hair, and he is missing a shoe. It's almost comical.
It is kind of funny to picture.
Peleus looks at this kid and knows exactly what he represents. It's his own doom walking through the door. It's like a guilty executive watching an auditor walk in.
That is a great comparison.
So Jason asks for his rightful throne, and Peleus says, sure, just run a quick errand first. Go sail to the edge of the known world and bring back the golden fleece.
Just a quick trip.
Right. And Jason just agrees to it. Looking at this, it feels like Jason is just incredibly naive. I mean, why does he politely agree to hand over the throne if he just runs an errand? He's walking right into an obvious trap.
It definitely looks like naivety on paper. But I'd argue it's something far more dangerous. It's supreme ancient Greek hubris.
Oh, interesting.
What's fascinating here is Peleus' strategy. Peleus is basically a corporate raider who knows he can't openly assassinate the rightful heir without starting a massive civil war.
Because the people would revolt.
Exactly. So he weaponizes an impossible quest. He plays right into Jason's youthful arrogance and ego, betting that the sheer lethality of the ancient world will just do his dirty work for him.
He's sending an under-equipped team into a hostile takeover, basically knowing they'll crash and burn.
That's the plan.
So Jason puts out the PR call. He gathers what is supposed to be the absolute Greek dream team, the Argonauts. You've got Hercules, you've got the musical genius Orpheus, the legendary twins Castor and Pollux.
A real all-star roster.
Yeah, they build the ship, the Argo, and they set off. But as we read Apollonius' account, this dream team is actually kind of a disaster, right?
They really are. It's almost funny how quickly things fall apart. Apollonius systematically deconstructs the idea of traditional heroism almost immediately.
How so?
Well, take Hercules. He is the ultimate symbol of Greek masculine strength, right? They lose him on one of their very first stops.
Right, they lose their MVP almost immediately.
Exactly. Hercules' armor bearer, Hylas, gets dragged underwater by a water nymph who wants a kiss. And Hercules just abandons the entire mission. He goes completely mad in the woods trying to find him.
And the rest of the crew.
The Argo literally just sails away without him. They just leave him behind. It's Apollonius' way of signaling that brute physical strength, like the old way of being a hero, just isn't going to solve this particular puzzle.
They need something else entirely. And the universe reinforces that when they meet this incredibly strange character named Phineas.
Oh, Phineas is a fascinating figure.
I was reading this part and just shaking my head. Phineas is an emaciated old prophet who has been cursed by Zeus. Every time he tries to eat, these horrifying bird-like creatures called harpies swoop down.
The hounds of Zeus, they were called.
Yeah, and they defile his food and leave this stench so nauseating that he's basically starving to death. The Argonauts, well, the Northwind's sons managed to chase the harpies away so the guy can finally have a meal.
A rare win for the team.
Truly. But what really caught my attention was why he was being punished in the first place. He wasn't punished for lying. He was punished for being too accurate.
Yes, exactly. And this raises a really important question about how the Greeks viewed the cosmos. Apollo gave Phineas the gift of unerring prophecy. But Zeus punished him because Zeus prefers to keep his divine intentions wrapped in mystery.
So Zeus got mad because Phineas was giving away spoilers.
Basically, yes. To the ancient Greeks, absolute truth was a threat to the power structures of the gods. If humans know exactly what's going to happen, the gods lose their leverage. Even absolute truth was secondary to the whims of the gods.
So even the gods are running a PR game. And Phineas repays the Argonauts by warning them about the clashing rocks, the Symplegades.
Those are terrifying. Massive floating cliffs that smash together and crush ships.
Right. And he gives them a mechanical trick to get through. He says to send a dove through first to test the timing. It's honestly like sending a drone into a booby-trapped room before you walk in.
That's a perfect way to look at it.
They barely survive. I mean, they lose their stern ornament, but they do make it to Colchis, the land of the Golden Fleece.
And this is where the real thematic shift happens in our story. They walk into the palace of King Hades. The king bathes them, he feeds them, and then he asks why they are there.
And Jason just tells him.
He does. And when Jason boldly asks for the fleece, the king is secretly seething. He is deeply xenophobic. And honestly, if they hadn't already eaten at his table, which invoked the sacred laws of hospitality, He would have killed them on the spot.
So instead of murdering them at dinner, he offers Jason a trial?
A totally impossible trial.
Yeah, he tells Jason he just has to yoke 2 fire-breathing bulls with bronze hooves, plow a field, plant the teeth of a dragon, and then fight off an army of magical warriors that will instantly sprout from the dirt.
No big deal.
Just a normal Tuesday. Jason accepts, but he fully expects this is a death sentence. And honestly, it is. Jason has absolutely no skills for this.
Not at all.
But up on Mount Olympus, the goddesses Hera and Aphrodite decide to intervene.
Right, because they want Jason to succeed. But they know his physical prowess isn't going to be enough. So they conspire. They deploy Aphrodite's son, Cupid, to shoot King Edith's daughter.
Medea.
Yes, Medea, a powerful sorceress. Cupid shoots her with a golden arrow of love.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting to me. Because Medea isn't just a princess. She is a deeply powerful magic user. But when I read this, I didn't see a sweeping romance at all.
No, it's definitely not that.
Cupid's arrow essentially strips Medea of her agency, doesn't it? She's literally shot with divine mind control. Is this even a love story? Or is Medea effectively a hostage to divine mind control, forced to betray her own family for a guy she just met?
I mean, it is absolutely a hostage situation. Apollonius writes Medea in absolute psychological torment over this. She is entirely aware of her own betrayal.
She knows it's wrong.
She knows. The text shows her sitting alone in her room, weeping, deeply ashamed of this mad passion she suddenly feels. She even pulls out a casket of poisonous herbs, actively contemplating suicide rather than yielding to it and betraying her father.
Wow, that is so dark.
It is. But the divine magic is simply too strong. The gods have weaponized her own emotions against her. She really has no free will here.
So compelled by this forced love, she sneaks out to meet Jason. And she essentially hands him the cheat codes to the trial.
She gives him everything he needs.
She gives him an invincibility ointment derived from the blood of Prometheus that makes him totally immune to fire and iron for a day. She tells him exactly how to defeat the dragon men.
Right, the rock trick.
Yeah, just throw a rock in the middle of them and they'll turn on each other. Jason promises to marry her, but let's be real here. Medea just did all the actual heavy lifting. She solved the entire quest for him.
Exactly. Jason steps onto that field the next day, and with Medea's magic protecting him, he withstands the fire-breathing bulls like a boulder in the sea.
He just breezes right through it.
He does. He plows the field, he throws the rock, and the armed men just slaughter each other. The impossible task is complete. But as you might expect, King Euripides has no intention of honoring the deal.
Of course not.
He plans treachery anyway. He's going to burn the Argo and murder the Greeks.
Which forces Medea to basically burn her entire life to the ground to save Jason. She flees to the ship, tells them they have to steal the Fleece right now, tonight.
Time's up.
They go to the sacred grove, and the Fleece is guarded by this colossal, terrifying serpent. And Jason doesn't draw a sword. He doesn't fight it.
He just stands there.
He literally just stands there while Medea steps up to this nightmare creature. She sings a dark, magical incantation that lulls it, forces its eyes shut, and puts it to sleep. Jason simply lifts the prize off the tree, and they run.
But the escape is where the story turns truly grim. King Euripides realizes they fled and sends his massive army in pursuit. And it's led by Medea's own brother, Absyrtus.
And this is where it gets horrific.
It does. To get away, something unthinkable has to happen. If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is the exact moment the genre of our story fractures.
We leave the Marvel movie behind.
Exactly. We are no longer in a heroic adventure. We are entering a tragedy.
And the sources give us 2 different versions of how they managed to escape, and both are completely horrifying. In one version, Medea lures her brother to a fake truce meeting, and Jason assassinates him from the shadows.
Cowardly, but effective.
Yeah. But in the other version, and this is the one that really stuck with me, Medea's brother is actually on the ship with them, and her father is closing in. So Medea murders her own brother, chops him limb from limb, and drops the pieces into the sea.
It is a grotesque mechanism of escape. She knows her father is bound by religious law to collect his son's remains for a proper burial. By scattering the pieces, she forces her father's fleet to stop and collect them, buying the Argo time to get away.
It's sickening. If you're listening to this, think about the gravity of that. It's like someone burning down their entire life, dismantling their own family, committing the most taboo crimes imaginable, all for a high school crush. Only the crush was forced on them by a literal god.
And it really highlights a crucial thematic shift. Medea's magic, unlike Jason's supposed heroism, always requires a gruesome physical price. There is no clean victory here.
It's always messy.
Always. This bloodshed sets a dark, inescapable precedent for what happens when they finally make it back to Greece.
Right, because when they get back, the hits just keep coming. They return to Greece only to find that the usurper king, Peleus, didn't just take Jason's throne. He essentially drove Jason's parents to their deaths while Jason was away.
So now Jason wants revenge.
But again, he doesn't lead an army. He doesn't challenge Peleus to a duel. He turns to the one person who actually gets things done, Medea.
And Medea orchestrates an incredibly cunning psychological trick to take Peleus down. She goes to Peleus' daughters and tells them she possesses a spell to reverse aging.
Oh, this part is wild.
To prove it, she takes an old, dying ram. She cuts it into pieces and throws it into a boiling cauldron. She utters an incantation, and out of the water springs a frisky young lamb.
The mechanism of this trick is just diabolical. The daughters are totally convinced. Medea gives the old king Peleus a sleeping potion, then turns to the daughters and says, "Okay, your turn. Chop up your dad and put him in the pot."
And they do it.
Driven by this desperate desire to restore their father's youth, they actually do it. They chop up Peleus, put the pieces in the boiling water, and they turn to Medea for the magic words.
And she is just gone.
She completely vanishes, leaving these daughters with the earth-shattering realization that they just murdered their own father.
It is a stunningly brutal revenge. Jason gets his vengeance, Peleus is dead. But because the crime is so abhorrent, the people drive Jason and Medea out.
They lose the kingdom anyway.
Right. They are exiled to the city of Corinth. And for a little while they settle down. They have 2 sons. It seems like the blood debt has finally been paid. But this is where the playwright Euripides picks up the narrative, and he zeroes in on the fatal flaw in Jason's character.
This is the part of the deep dive that genuinely made me angry. Because Jason, after everything Medea sacrificed for him, suddenly decides that being married to an exiled foreign sorceress is a bad look for his political ambition.
Doesn't help his career.
No. So he quietly decides to marry the king of Corinth's daughter. It is pure, unadulterated ambition. And because Medea is understandably enraged by this betrayal, the king of Corinth orders her and her 2 little boys into exile.
Which, you have to understand, in the ancient world, for a foreign woman with no male protector, exile was essentially a death sentence.
She has nowhere to go.
Exactly. And Euripides writes this incredible scene where Jason comes to see her before she's banished. But he doesn't come to apologize. He approaches her with this staggering coldness and arrogance.
So what does this all mean? It means Jason delivers the most egregious case of historical gaslighting I have ever read. Have you ever heard a worse defense?
Probably not. It's stunning.
Medea stands there and lays out the receipts. She says, "I conquered the fire-breathing bulls. I defeated the earthborn men. I neutralized the serpent. I betrayed my father. I murdered Peleus. I built your entire legacy."
And what is Jason's defense?
He actually says, "You didn't do that. Aphrodite did. The goddess of love compelled you. So I actually owe the gods, not you." I mean, can you believe that?
It is the ultimate erasure. He totally strips her of her intellectual property, her magical labor, and her agency. He attributes all her brilliance to someone else.
Just writing her out of her own story?
Yes, and he goes even further. He literally tells her she should be grateful to him. He argues that by bringing her to Greece, he introduced her to a civilized system of justice rather than the barbarian world she came from.
It's exactly like the tech CEO saying, "You should be thanking me for the internship." He blames her uncontrolled spirit for getting her exiled, completely ignoring that he is the one who broke their vows first.
Jason's hollow ambition just totally blinds him. He believes he can simply discard the very force of nature that built him up in the first place. But Euripides shows us that you cannot push absolute devotion into a corner without creating absolute desperation.
She has nothing left to lose.
Right. Medea refuses his pity. She refuses his hush money, and her sorrow calcifies into a terrifying resolve. She decides she is going to dismantle Jason's life piece by piece, striking where it will hurt him the most.
And she starts with the new bride. She crafts a beautiful golden robe, anoints it with this flesh-melting magical poison, and sends her 2 little boys to deliver it to Jason's new bride as a wedding gift.
A Trojan horse of a gift.
The princess puts it on, and immediately she is consumed by unquenchable fire. She drops dead in absolute agony, and when her father, the king, tries to save her, the poison consumes him too.
But Medea's revenge isn't finished there. And this is the most harrowing psychological insight Euripides offers in the play.
The children.
Yes. Medea knows that because her boys deliver the poisoned robe, the Corinthians will inevitably hunt them down and slaughter them in retaliation. In her mind, she is trapped. She has to choose between letting strangers torture and murder her children or doing it herself.
To spare them that cruelty.
Yes, and in doing so, utterly destroying Jason's lineage and his legacy forever.
Euripides captures her agonizing over this, right? Her profound love for her children is violently warring with her despair and her need to utterly break Jason. But she makes the devastating choice. She murders her 2 sons.
It's incredibly bleak.
And when Jason finally bursts into the house, completely unhinged, looking to kill her, he is too late. The boys are dead. And Medea is standing on the roof, stepping into a magical chariot drawn by dragons.
Sent by her grandfather, the sun god.
Right. She escapes on a dragon-drawn chariot.
She literally ascends beyond his reach. Jason is left in the dirt, screaming curses at her, completely shattered. But even in his ruin, Euripides shows us that Jason is still blind to his own fault.
He learns nothing.
Nothing. He refuses to see that his own betrayal was the catalyst for this destruction. The text leaves us with this tragic vision. All that she did of evil and of good was done for him alone, and in the end, all the reward she got was that he turned traitor. Jason's ambition is ultimately destroyed by the very passion he exploited.
Wow. So to wrap this up for you, what started as this glorious Marvel-style nautical adventure, the Greek all-stars assembling to sail the high seas, it slowly morphed into a devastating exploration of betrayal, power dynamics, and the destructive force of unpaid emotional debts.
It really forces us, as readers, to look way beyond the surface of the heroic epic. It makes you question the mechanics of how myths are built. Like, who pays the price for a hero's glory?
Exactly.
And what happens when you exploit someone else's brilliance for your own gain?
Which brings me right back to our tech CEO analogy from the beginning of the deep dive. We constantly refer to this myth as the heroism of Jason and the Argonauts. The entire story is named after his supposed leadership.
Even though he did very little.
Right. Considering Jason achieved absolutely nothing without Medea's magic, without her sacrifices, and without her bloodshed. I want to leave you with a thought to mull over today. Is this ancient myth actually the very first recorded story of a woman's brilliance and labor being completely erased, only to be claimed by a mediocre man's ambition?
When you look at the mechanics of this story that way, it's a perspective that permanently changes the way you view the ancient world.
It really does. It changes everything. Well, thank you for taking this deep dive with us today. We'll catch you on the next one.